The Tomorrow War is a sci-fi action movie that was released in 2021. The movie is directed by Chris McKay and stars Chris Pratt, Yvonne Strahovski, J.K. Simmons, and Betty Gilpin. The movie is set in the year 2022, where a group of time travelers arrive from 2051 with a dire message. Humanity is losing a global war against a deadly alien species, and the only hope for survival is for soldiers and civilians from the present day to be transported to the future to join the fight. Chris Pratt plays the role of Dan Forrester, a high school teacher and veteran who is drafted to join the fight. In the future, as he fights to save humanity, he must also confront his past and fight for the future of his family. With intense action, thrilling special effects, and a thought-provoking premise, The Tomorrow War is a must-see for fans of sci-fi and action movies. Here are the main characters in The Tomorrow War. Dan Forrester, played by Chris Pratt. Colonel Maury Forrester, played by Yvonne Strahovski. James Forrester, played by J.K. Simmons. These are just a few of the main characters in the movie, but there are many other important characters who play key roles in the plot.
In December 2022, biology teacher and former Green Beret, Dan Forrester, fails to get a job at a prestigious research center. While he is watching the World Cup at a Christmas party, soldiers from the year 2051 arrive to warn that humanity is on the brink of extinction due to a war with alien invaders, the Witesbecks. The Witesbecks will arrive in November 2048 and kill the majority of humanity 3 years later. In response, members of the world's militaries are sent into the future through a wormhole device called the Jump Link, but fewer than 30 survive deployment to return in 7 days, prompting a worldwide draft. After a year of the draft and a growing anti-war movement, there is little hope for humanity's survival. Dan receives a notice that he has been drafted and reports with other draftees to basic training. Dan deduces with fellow draftee Charlie that in order to prevent a paradox, those drafted have already died before the war starts. The draftees are sent forward in time to a battlefield in Miami Beach, but few survive, having been dropped in the incorrect location above the city. The draftees are ordered by Colonel Forrester to rescue nearby lab personnel before the area is sterilized. The draftees discover the lab personnel dead but recover their research. Dan radios to command about the situation, and he is told that no help will be sent to rescue the stranded troops. Many of the draftees are killed except for Dan, Charlie, and Dorian, a battle-hardened soldier on his third deployment to the future. The survivors wake up in a military encampment in the Dominican Republic. Dan is asked to report to Colonel Forrester, who turns out to be his grown daughter Maury. She requests him to accompany her on a mission to capture a female white spike, which are rarer than the males typically encountered. They trap and cage the female, only to have hundreds of males descend on their position. As the helicopter with the female lifts off, Dan and Maury escape to a beach and radio for rescue. Maury reveals that Dan, dissatisfied with his life after losing the job, he abandons his family and dies in a car crash in 2030. Dan, Maury and the female white spike are transported to a fortified oil rig close to Port Nelson, where the jump link is located. Dan and his daughter work on a toxin that can kill the captured female. They find a match for killing the aliens, just as they start to breach the base. As the Witesbecks attack the base, the formerly captive female spears Colonel Forrester with one of her spikes. She plummets from the gantry and Dan follows her off just before he is transported back to the past with the toxin to mass produce it. Dan tries to give the toxin to the military so it can be sent back to the future, but learns that the jump link is offline, having been destroyed by the Witesbecks. The world has become chaotic with the news that the jump link is offline, foretelling the war was lost. While Dan brainstorms with his wife, Emmy, she deduces that the Witesbecks did not arrive in 2048, but came much earlier. Dan consults with Charlie and Martin, a high school student with an interest in volcanoes, and they theorize that the Witesbecks have been on Earth since the Millennium eruption in the year 946, and global warming caused their release when they thawed out and emerged from under the ice caps. Dan leads a mission to Russia with Charlie, Dorian, a few surviving future soldiers, and his estranged father James to prove his theory. The team finds a crashed alien ship at the Academy of Sciences glacier on Komsomolets Island. They debate telling the world about the problem, but decide to end the threat right then and there. Once inside, they realize that the Witespics are not aliens themselves, but rather bioengineered organisms possibly used as a planet-clearing weapon or cattle by another alien race. The team injects several of the dormant Witespics with a toxin. This kills those injected but wakes the others, and most of the team is killed. Terminally ill with cancer and wanting to die on his own terms, Dorian remains behind to blow up the ship with C4, and the explosion kills all but one of the Witespics. Dan and his father track down the one female that has escaped, leaving them and Charlie as the team's only survivors. Content knowing that the war is averted and humanity is saved, Dan brings James home to meet his wife and daughter, determined not to make the same mistakes that Maury had warned him about from her future. Audience opinion about the Tomorrow War has been mixed. Some viewers have praised the film's thrilling action scenes and impressive special effects, while others have criticized its formulaic plot and lack of originality. Some have also praised the performances of the cast, particularly Chris Pratt. Overall, while the movie has its flaws, it seems to have entertained many viewers and provided a fun and exciting sci-fi action experience. The Tomorrow War is an action-packed and entertaining science fiction movie with impressive visual effects and strong performances from its cast, particularly Chris Pratt. While the plot may be formulaic and predictable at times, the film's fast pace and exciting action sequences make for an engaging and enjoyable viewing experience. Overall, it's a fun popcorn flick that's sure to please fans of the genre. This is my general and personal review of the movie. What is your opinion about this movie? Don't forget to leave a comment for everyone to discuss. I will suggest more interesting things about the basic information of this movie.
Here are a few pieces of trivia about the Tomorrow War. The alien creatures in the movie are referred to as white spikes, and their design was inspired by various animals, including leeches, lampreys, and spiders. The film's director, Chris McKay, is known for his work on animated movies, including the Lego Batman movie and Robot Chicken. Chris Pratt underwent intense physical training to prepare for his role as Dan Forrester, including weightlifting and boxing. The movie was filmed on location in various cities, including Atlanta, Iceland, and Hawaii. The screenplay for The Tomorrow War was written by Zach Dean, who previously wrote the 2019 action movie Deadfall. The movie is here and it's over, so remember to click follow to watch the next interesting movies. Goodbye and see you again.